if there is a way, what is the way out of this narrative for the leader of the Conservative Party?
We have some absolute bombshell news here today. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. So in the aftermath of Matt Genereux crossing the floor, we've got something coming out of CBC, Rosemary Barton, doing her thing, and then she gets caught on a hot mic, basically admitting that she is deceiving Canadians, telling an absolute lie. This is one of the most stark admissions of deception I've ever seen on mainstream media. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, we've got the food professor posting this. We've got two graphs here showing food inflation in Canada, and well, we see the orange here is Donald Trump in America, this line here, and what do we see, this blue line? This is Canada. Carney's Canada here. Carney gets in as prime minister, officially a winning rate here, and then since then now it's going to the moon. Somehow we're gonna have to get back to the real things that matter in Canada, like food inflation, housing costs, immigration, healthcare, but of course we have everything else that dominates the media cycle. I mean, Mark Carney has numerous people stepping down, vacating their seats, and CBC, CTV don't cover that whatsoever, and then whenever there's a floor crosser, it's wall-to-wall coverage. They don't even talk about this stuff. Moving ahead, we've got Mark Carney holding an event here. An evening with Mark Carney, $1,775. So they always like to go after Pierre Poilievre when he hosts these events, and well, Mark Carney does the same thing. These are fundraising events. This one being held in Vancouver on February 18th, as in last night. Funny thing and hypocritical, the Liberal base was just roasting Pierre for having the same event. I mean, exactly. That's just how this always is. They always criticize Pierre for having these events, but never going to criticize Carney. Moving ahead here, we've got a panel talking about the Matt Genereux situation. I'm going to piece in some clips as we go on here, including the one with Rosemary Barton.
That none of this was, even though there's been rampant speculation about this possibility occurring, that it was announced in the way it does. What does that tell you about the strategy being employed by the Liberals and the Prime Minister right now?
They've clearly learned their lesson from the floor crossers in late 2025, right? When we had d'Entremont kind of leak, Matt Genereux, it looked like he was going to cross and then it leaked. But so clearly they've learned about how to keep this tight. The second part of the strategy, though, that I think is very clearly highlighted is they are actively pursuing floor crossers in a majority through this mechanism. And frankly, it also shows that they deeply understand the moment Canada is in, right? I think that the statement coming from Matt Genereux, the statement coming from the Prime Minister, MPs want to help Canada get to a majority so that we can try to get through this trade war and not have the constant back and forth. At least that's how it appears to me. And that's probably the strategy they're using to convince people.
It's interesting that in the past few weeks, the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre himself, Jamie, have gone to great lengths to kind of convince Canadians and I think political watchers that like that they won't be standing in the way unnecessarily of that agenda advancing. Like, I've done a number of interviews, including with Andrew Scheer, where he made it abundantly clear, I think exactly a week ago, that they did not intend that to be the case. Whatever that message was did not seem to translate to Matt Genereux.
Yeah, I think the curious case around Matt Genereux is going to have a lot of people's head scratching. I'm not sure any of the parties involved really come out looking great about it all. I think this is the part of politics that makes people incredibly cynical. But I also think when you look at where Matt Genereux was back in November, the fact that he almost crossed the floor and essentially had to be pleaded not to, and then 2 months later, 3 months later, went ahead and did it anyways. This is just further momentum for Prime Minister Carney, even if it is a bit messy as how he's going about it. I think the Conservative response
And that's just it. This is a messy situation. Carney trying to get an undemocratic majority, and well, the media will never say that. They'll just say, oh, Poilievre is weak, his leadership is weak, even though he just got 87% in his leadership review. They're still going to just try to attack him because the media are full of paid off shills who just do it for their paycheck. They're absolute traitors to our country. Cue up this clip here Mark Nixon posted. I tried to find the original source of this, and I couldn't even record any CBC station whatsoever. Say in the future, trying to record every single one just in case I can go back. They don't let you record CBC, at least on my TV with TELUS. Getting into this, Rosemary Barton gets caught on a hot mic after she does a little segment here. She's trying to convince Canadians that Alberta is warming up to Mark Carney and the whole eco agenda, and then she basically admits it, that it's all a big lie. She's just lying to the audience. This is gonna make your jaw drop.
And comes to be elected again, but there's also, the reality that some people in Alberta are kind of warming up to the Prime Minister because he has taken markedly different positions on issues that matter to them, whether it be energy development or climate change measures that he's backed off on. So maybe Mr. Genereux feels like his riding is starting to move in that direction as well.
Rosie, thank you. The CBC's chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton, live in Ottawa. Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, is speaking to reporters in Montreal. Let's listen.
they don't. Let's see. Probably the small.
Yeah. Just because it's all made up anyway.
Just because it's all made up anyways. That's right. Right on the air, she said that. Little laugh. It's just all made up. She knows full well Albertans are not warming up to Mark Carney and his net zero agenda. Give me a break. I was born and raised in Battle River, Crowfoot. There's oil rigs all over the prairies, just minutes from town. These are hardworking conservatives. They're not idiots falling for this net zero agenda. Let's get real. Let's listen to it one more time. This is so unbelievable.
People in Alberta are kind of warming up to the prime minister because he has taken markedly different positions on issues that matter to them, whether it be energy development or climate change measures that he's backed off on. So maybe Mr. Genereux feels like his riding is starting to move in that direction as well. Yeah. Just because it's all made up anyway.
This is so unbelievable. It's so blatantly honest for once. It's all made up. This is a big grift. She should be fired immediately. Shut this organization down. Bunch of deceptive losers need to be fired and pulled off the air. It's all made up. Defund the CBC. She needs to be fired. Entitlement overload. She needs to be fired. There's a whole lot of she needs to be fired comments in here. It should be a fireable offense, honestly. CBC needs to be shuttered. Any money left in their coffers should be returned to Canadian people whose money they've grifted far too long. So jumping back to the Genereux situation here, there's a lot of different opinions on the way that Poilievre should go forward with this. This is not going to be easy because the media is going to be attacking him 24/7 now for the next 2 weeks on this.
Kind of shows you where the kind of the spurn and how they're feeling about all of this. And I frankly just don't think they actually know if there's going to be more. And which is why I think you're continuing to try to see them going back to the original playbook they tried with Chris May, which is to like go scorched earth and try and make an example of them and make the person who did leave feel some personal animosity as a result of it, while trying to bridge back to a message about affordability that's kind of getting lost in the vitriol that's being launched at RAN.
Sharon, I'll throw the question of whether there are going to be more over to you. Maybe you know, maybe you can shed some light. It certainly feels like that is the case, at least that there are more people, to Laura's point, being targeted.
So whether it's targeted or whether people are reaching out, I would say it could be a variety of any. But yeah, there's a lot of talk and a lot of rumors and speculations and names that are floating around with up to several more members who might cross the floor from the CPC. But we have to ask ourselves why. We saw the flurry that came out of the speculation back in the fall, and then eventually when Matt Genereux did say he was going to resign, and we've heard all the speculation that was going on out there. And if anything was a clear reason as to why people are walking away from the party, just look at the response coming out of people like Pierre Poilievre, coming out of members of his caucus, coming out of their social media influencer gang that's out there. Nothing about this says, come be part of our tent. We welcome all, and we welcome you to be part of us. It is showing the hate. It is showing the dismissiveness around what people think. And I've said this before, the Conservative Party often operates on fear and hate, and I get a lot of slack from people online to say that's not true. Just go on social media networks today to see what people are saying about Mr. Genereux. Whereas the Liberal Party has welcomed him with open arms, he is not a hyper-partisan. He is someone who's thoughtful, cares deeply about things like men's mental health. And you know what? He's welcome in a party that's not going to spew hate at him.
She's unbelievable. She keeps putting out this propaganda. Mark Carney uses the dangerous and divided thing all the time. He just used it the other day at his defense spending announcement. I should note, too, I blasted her so badly on her whole fear-mongering take last time that, well, she blocked me. Sharon Gareth blocked you. She can't handle the criticism. She wants to be on national television? Then she's got to be able to take the heat. I haven't blocked anyone ever on any platform. She's just another shill that's paid to push out propaganda and doesn't want to take the heat. You notice, too, she mentioned social media influencers. She's definitely talking about Mario. As Mario came out with this today, which you can see he got 383,000 views on this post. Am I going to be the guy that breaks it to Matt Genereux's wife what Matt has done while in Ottawa? I'll tell you this much, the staffers, they know. So he put that out there. Sharon Kerr went on a tear, which you can see here. This is the death of the CPC HQ. What's left is a hollowed out cult of thugs and conspiracy theorists led by Pierre Poilievre. From the top down, it's a factory of hate and misinformation marketing Mario is the bottom-dwelling parasite doing the dirty work, absolute bottom-of-the-barrel rot. This is what she posted in reply to Mario. This went trending on X here, and you can see she took a shot at Mark Nixon, one at Frank Caputo, one at Pierre Poilievre. Sharon Kerr is absolutely unhinged. And in response, this also went trending on X. Mario replying with Sharon, engaging in liable is a new low, even for you. And he goes on to fact check her here, saying he didn't work for the Conservative Party, and just basically breaks this down here. She puts out garbage day after day on her X account. And she replies here, bring it on, girlfriend. It would take great joy in going to court. Actually, I insist. So she's egging it on here. This is the panels they have on CTV. We also have Aaron Gunn commenting on this, saying, I'm pretty sure Matt Genereux, who lied and misled his constituents during the last election, hasn't shown up for work one time since November and hasn't even bothered to cast a vote. At the very least, he should reimburse taxpayers the $50K that he's taken without doing any work. Matt Genereux is a freeloader. Even Janice McGregor of CBC points this out, that he hasn't shown up for work in months.
Time with his family. He characterized this as an amicable break with his Conservative caucus. He said he had a positive conversation with Pierre Poilievre at the time, that his fellow Conservatives remained friends, that he would remain a loyal Conservative, still supported that party at that point, insisting really that this was not a loyalty question, that he would be stepping down because it was what was best for him. But he has not been present in the House of Commons in the months since, nor did he vote remotely in those key confidence votes that we were tracking, for example, on the federal budget last fall. This gave the impression that he already had basically one foot out the door, wasn't very engaged in being an MP anymore. We believed that there would be perhaps a by-election imminent for that Edmonton seat. But in a statement that he's now posted on his own social feed, Genereux says that he had conversations around his family's kitchen table this winter.
So we already got into all that, but basically, yeah, Genereux hasn't shown up for months. He's just ripping off taxpayers. How is this even allowed? Any normal person in a normal job can't just not show up for work for 3 months and keep getting paid. This is absolutely absurd. There needs to be new laws in Parliament, and this is not a partisan thing. If someone's not showing up for work, throw their butt out of there in immediate by-election. We also have Melanie Joly commenting on the situation here, doing her best to try to fling some mud at Pierre Poilievre. Very predictable.
Pierre Poilievre is accusing the Liberal Party of getting a majority with dirty backroom deals. So what is your response to that? Well, he just has to make sure he can keep MPs in his own party. That's all.
He just needs to be able to keep his own MPs in his own party. It's his own problem.
Blaming corruption from incentivization on a political figurehead is the height of ingeniousness. This is occurring because there's no law required representative democracy to stay representative, which is allowance of tyranny. Basically, we have to have some laws that forces by-elections so this nonsense doesn't happen anymore. So jumping back to CTV and Sharon Kerr, you can see all this stuff has been happening on X, and that's why she made those statements pointed directly at Mario.
Coming out of members of his caucus, coming out of their social media influencer gang that's out there.
Well, the perfect person to respond to that is sitting right next to you, and I'll give you the floor, Sebastian, to do just that.
I'm not really sure what Sharon expects Conservatives to do. Obviously, this is someone who is leaving and betraying our team. I'm not sure if we're expected to applaud and be happy at that. Of course, the Liberals are thrilled that an opportunist and a careerist is joining their ranks. He will fit right in with Prime Minister Carney in doing what they do best, which is doing a lot of talk and very little actual doing. This is a member of Parliament who has not shown up to Parliament, which is where his job is since November. He has not really cast any votes. So I'm sure the Liberal caucus will be proud of that important record when he is an advisor to the Prime Minister. I think on this, obviously, this is not a great thing to have happened, but I think we need to look at this in the context of the individuals in question, as we did with Mr. Dontron, as we did with Mr. Ma, and recognize that these are decisions that are entirely based in advancing their own careers and their own opportunities ahead of those of their constituents, which regrettably are put at a loss here. They're not represented in the case of Mr. Genereux at all because of his absence, but they're not represented by someone they voted for, and their hopes and their aspirations to have a better country are have fallen really on deaf ears.
Look, I very much understand feelings of betrayal that people who just a number of months ago voted for these MPs would feel. I even understand conservatives saying, like, what the heck? We thought you were on our team. But the thing is, when it's just one, then the focus can be on the individual. When it's two, maybe even then a discussion. When it's three and potentially more, I think necessarily so, like any objective reporter, just as we scrutinized Justin Trudeau when people were calling out his own leadership, like the story becomes Mr. Poilievre's leadership, Laura.
That's not necessarily true. Sure, you can say, oh, it's Poilievre's fault, but you could also say the other side. What is Mark Carney enticing people with? People are greedy. Is money being offered on the side? We know that Matt Genereux, it was said on CBC that he's getting a special advisor role to Mark Carney. So is he getting an extra $50K, an extra $100K being paid out of the Liberal coffers for doing that? So $200K plus another $100,000, $300,000 a year? Is there other incentives being offered out of country? It's not as simple as, oh, well, it's Poilievre's fault. If they want to do some proper journalism, then you got to look on both sides. Sure, maybe they're upset with how Poilievre has handled certain things, or a speech he's given, or a certain stance or take he's had on something, but it most definitely can also be Mark Carney enticing with money or something else. And while we're talking policy and floor crossers, the Conservative Party's constitution should bring in a new rule that if somebody wants to cross the floor, then they have to go into a waiting period of 4 years before they're allowed to do that. Just write that in there. They have to sign it. So if they want to cross the floor, they have to resign, go to a by-election, wait 4 years, and then they can cross the floor. I don't know if they can legally write that into the code, but they should. Basically treat it like any company non-compete. You want to work for the other company, you're going to have to wait 4 years before you can do it.
The story is absolutely Mr. Poilievre's leadership. This is 3 floor crossers and Jamil Javani going down to the U.S., frankly, making Pierre Poilievre look quite weak. Whether that comes to he didn't know that Jamil Javani was going down, he didn't know what was happening, and also he hasn't sort of publicly reprimanded him or publicly dealt with him in a way that would indicate he has control over caucus right now. And that is also raising questions. I think when you...
That isn't raising questions. Most conservatives aren't thinking, oh, that really made Poilievre look bad. The guy went down there to help our country. They're trying to spin this to make Pierre look weak, as usual.
Add on the rumors that there are more coming, and I think a lot of the sort of chattering classes learned their lesson in the fall with such rampant rumors. They don't feel like giddy rumors right now. They feel a little bit more credible. When you start to hear that, the question has to be, why did Pierre Poilievre win 87% at his leadership review, drive so hard for that, and he's not using that political capital now to make sure his caucus is falling in line and showing themselves to be the governing party they want to be?
Do you think caucus is an issue, Jamie? And what do you think, if there is a way, what is the way out of this narrative for the leader of the Conservative Party?
Yeah, actually, let's be real about this. I think there is a wide variety of opinions in that Conservative caucus as to what the party should be doing right now in this minority parliament. There is a wide diversity of opinion as to how resolute the party should be in doubling down on conservative principles and being bombastic and unapologetic, and kind of letting the dislike for all things liberal define the party's personality and how it talks to Canadians. And there are those that kind of also want to see some real tangible actions that look at things like the MOU with the province of Alberta and say, hey, how can we actually put more pressure on the government to expedite this? Because we're supposed to be in a wartime effort and we're a year later. And although there's been a lot of agreements and a lot of bigger picture stuff that we've talked about on the show, and Laura's called out the reality of those are longer term payoffs for the country and then by extension for the prime minister, with a lot of politics before that gets realized, the Conservatives could be pushing more pressure on that to get the government to act. I think if you look...
There's no way. They can't. That's not a good take. Pierre Poilievre already came out and supported most of it. He's not going to support the industrial carbon tax because it's making life miserable in Canada for Canadians. It's driving up food prices. It's driving up costs of anything attached to it, any sort of business attached to that. He's not going to support that, nor should he. So if there's Conservatives who think we should be supporting the industrial carbon tax, well, then are they really Conservatives? No. Let's jump over to CBC for a second here. I thought Fred Delory had a good take.
As David mentioned, where the polling is right now, this is massive majority territory for the Liberals if we were to go this spring. So to alleviate that pressure and to give Poilievre a year or so. And again, just because if he gets his 1-seat majority, it's 1 seat. It doesn't mean we go the next 3 years smooth sailing here. We may see floor crossings go the other way. Carney's going to do things that may upset some of his own caucus, and things can shift, and we can get back into election footing in a year or so. So yes, there is definitely a silver lining for Poilievre in that the more time he has to prepare for the next election, the more time he has to prepare for the next election.
This is what I mentioned in a previous video. There can be floor crossers going the other way. Of course, CBC would never say that because a lot of these politicians, especially the Liberals, have no idea what Carney's actually doing. His net zero agenda, his carried interest, 3%, Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1, all of that stuff. I made sure today to go through the conflicts of interest, update everything, because it's time to put in act the new phase here of making sure everyone in Canada knows exactly who Mark Carney is. So I've got Carney's conflicts of interest here, and I've updated them. So now I've got cattle in here. He just met with them in China. Among all the other ones, Red Chris Mine, Darlington Nuclear, Blackstone, CAE, the one just from the other day, Pathways Project, Lockheed Martin again. This was F-35s. This is Precision Missile Strike System. We've got BWX Technologies. We've got Rebuilding Ukraine. Indirect conflicts. We've got ATCO. We've got the North Coast Transmission Line. And now I have a new section here. These are Carney's cabinet conflicts of interest because these are coming into play. And so we're going to be marking these with red. And we've got Melanie Joly meeting with BMO in China, as well as Melanie Joly meeting with Manulife in China. When Mark Carney was meeting with CATL, the battery manufacturer in China, Melanie Joly was meeting with these two companies, both who have business dealings with Brookfield. So it's time to put this onto a sheet and start blasting this all over Canada. Every library, every gas station bulletin board, every grocery store, you name it, where Canadians will see this. It's time for Canadians to understand who Mark Carney is, because enough is enough of these guys destroying our country.